Welcome to the Social Community Show, where it's our goal to help you learn, grow, and transform into the person you want to become. Today, I'm talking with Dan Capello. Dan went from burnout and over 300 pounds because he wasn't eating and living right to running his first Spartan race and realizing that his family deserved more from him. What he was doing for a living was killing him. Ironically, he's a chef. Because he did not handle the stress appropriately, Dan was nourishing others, but not himself. Now, Dan helps leaders and professionals regain control over the professional life that has suffered because of a successful but busy career. Now armed with tools to live their best and deliberate life for their family and community. Like Dan says, a balanced and successful life translates into a more productive and impactful professional career. Dan's got a book coming out. It's kind of why we got in here. I'll link to that in the show notes. Deliberate Evolution. We talk about a bit about being deliberate and what that kind of means and different things about being deliberate. We talk about his journey. There's weight loss and kind of how that happened and why that spurred what got him to be heavy, which was trauma. He talks about that. It was great of him to open up and share about that. I know that's tough, but that's also part of the journey and of healing is being able to talk about these difficult things, which is what got him to be heavy, to use food and alcohol and things as his medicine per se, to help him, with that stress and stuff. We talk about a wide range of things. It was a great conversation, a really enlightening conversation. He's got a lot of insights. He's been through a lot of stuff. And with that, there's a lot to learn. I think sharing the trauma and being open and honest with these things that are part of the mental health problems we're having. A lot of this stems from the trauma, and then maybe it's not okay or whatnot to talk about these different things and to talk about the trauma. And people like Dan out there making this stuff better, facilitating these conversations and different things. I think there's a lot going on here, and I hope you guys really enjoy my conversation with Dan Capello. Welcome to the show. So great to connect and get to know more about your story. I read a little bit about your stuff, and I got a book coming out. I know we'll talk about those different things. Real quick, before we get into it, I kind of related to some of your story, and I kind of want to share real quick something I never really talked about, but I think it with your story makes me kind of want to share a little bit. I know for me, seemingly back in 2018 as well, I don't know what was going on in the water back then, but I also realized I was getting kind of fat, kind of heavy. I didn't really think about it. I didn't really notice. And I came back from vacation and I was like, man, I went to the store and I wanted a new shirt or something. And I grabbed, and I was like, I have put on a 2X and I was like, this doesn't fit anymore. And I was like, but that was the only moment where I really realized, I was like, man, I'm getting kind of fat. And I was always an athlete and stuff and mediocre at best and stuff. So I never really thought much about my weight and stuff like that. And long story, not so long. I wound up dropping 50 pounds in 2019. And, and I started feeling good. I was like, man, I really didn't realize how heavy I was. And so I noticed something happened to you. I was wondering, what was a catalyst with you that made you kind of start to look at yourself and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm getting a little too heavy and things aren't going quite my way?
Well, I mean, it was really that picture that I sent you.
Yeah.
Was at a wedding in August at my best friend's. We went to Philadelphia and I took the picture and I got back and I'm like looking at it. It's like, holy moly.
Yeah.
That guy's huge. And it's like, no, you're that guy.
Yeah. And I'll share that picture in the show notes with you guys. It's a really great transformation side by side of what you were to what you became, running that Spartan race and whatnot. So it was just that picture that just made you say, wait a minute, I got to look at something going on here.
Well, but a lot of it was burnout too. Because I mean, as a professional chef, I've done this at high-end country clubs for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And, it's like burnout's almost like a badge of honor. It's like, everybody's like, yeah, I had to work 60 hours this week. Oh, it's like, oh, you're part-time. So, and that's, it's kind of funny, but it's really not funny at all. Mm-hmm. And, nobody, it's like, you get beat up and people fall to the side because they can't, they don't want to do the hours. And then we're like, what do you mean you only want to work, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And it was, it took a toll on my family, because I was, and really, I didn't really realize the self-medication was from the early trauma that I had totally it happened when I was at 6 and you block all that out. And then also, I got beat a lot because I was a little shit, but, with 6 kids, my mom took care of us. But, it is what it is. We all have problems, but I had anger issues and, my health was going bad. The doctor's like, hey, we want you to put you on these medications. I'm like, no, man. And then, and it actually was, I read, David Goggins.
Oh yeah.
Just came out right then. And I read it and he's like, who does this stuff? And I was like, I want to run a Spartan race. And it's like, who does this stuff? But it's like, it was kind of, that was kind of like a call, but I like kind of resonated with what he was going through because he came through a very abusive background growing up, and the same thing. And, he got overweight. I was in the Air Force and I got out and it wasn't so bad, but then slowly the years of being a chef, as you get older, you just put on more weight because you're always around food. And so was that moment. And I said, you know what, I got to do this or it's not going to work anymore. So that was a catalyst. And then it was like, because I had ACL surgery before. So both my knees were jacked up. So, I mean, it was rough. I had to quit like a month of walking at the park and doing all that. So it was really, but each time, get off a month and it was like I lost 2 weeks and then I lost 1 week and so it got better and better. And finally I ran that Spartan race and that was like very surreal. That moment there when I'm jumping over it, my sister was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Because I was that's what I was picturing. Like Goggins was saying, you picture what you want to do, where you want to be. And I was jumping over that. And that was that whole thing. That whole time was I was picturing myself jumping over that fire like the other people. And when it happened, it was like all that just, endorphins and dopamine and everything. It's just like you got that rush. It was really wild. So.
And you did that with one ACL, two ACL reconstructions?
Well, I had one, I snapped one of them and I wouldn't take a cadaver.
Okay.
So, or any other part. So they actually tore up the other knee to put it in there, and actually went to a sports doctor that said, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to get you back in 6 weeks. You're going to be walking without anything. And, he did that, tore one knee up. He goes, we're going to rehabilitate one. Let's just rehabilitate two. And I was like, okay, sure. Yeah. But I mean, I got out of the surgery. I woke up and he's like, all right, we're going to get up. We're going to go walking. I'm like, what? I had no brace. I'm nothing. He's like, no, we're going walking. It's like, this is what we do. So
it's a whole lot different than it used to be. Before it was like stay in bed for weeks and stay there. Now it's like get up and go. I have a friend, she tore ACL in an accident, and same thing. She's like, wait a minute, like, but I guess they say if you don't get moving, then that really hinders your recovery. So
right. Well, most of the other doctors, I went to 2 other ones, and they were like, you're going to be 6 weeks in a brace, in bed, and we're going to have to put these screws in your leg and all this to attach it. And we want to use cadavers. And I'm like, no cadavers, no screws. And the doctor that I went to said there was not going to be any screws, but I ended up with a bloody screw in my knee. So, but, Does
it bother you?
No, it's just I can't have MRIs.
Oh, okay.
It'll rip it out.
It's probably easy to go through TSA though now, right? You just pass right around the side.
Well, they didn't even. I asked them. He waved the thing over it, and it's like, I can't tell.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's titanium. So I don't know.
Oh, okay. Did that ACL did that set you back at all, or did it kind of give you motivation to keep going? How did that?
Well, that was like 10 or 12 years before. But
okay.
But it actually took, for me to actually, because I used to do martial arts and I was always kneeling, and it was kind of like a keto, so we did a lot of work on the knees.
Yeah.
And after that, it took about 6 years before I could actually kneel on the ground without like excruciating pain. It took that long.
Wow.
So
was that the weight or just not exercising, or?
No, it was just the tenderness. It just didn't go away. He said it's going to be tender for a while, and I'm like, you didn't say 6 years.
Yeah.
So, but
they were talking about months here, not years.
Yeah. So, and that was like 10 years before that was like in 08 or 09, I think is when I did that. So, I was already back and all that, but every time I tried to get in shape, because like 4 years before that or 5 years before that, I took my son to Philmont, which is a Boy Scout hike camp, and we hiked 120 something miles in 10 days.
Wow.
So I had to get ready for that. And then when I came back, I moved jobs, and then, more stress, more alcohol, more food, more, too many freaking desserts. I mean, you walk by it, and it's like a whole speed cart of desserts or whatever. And it's like, you eat one, it's like, oh, what happened to it? So, yeah.
And was that like your crutch or your therapy? Was it food and alcohol? Is that the thing you used to self-soothe, or?
Yeah, that was the soothing thing. That was the first thing. After I was, we'll get to that after this, because I was sexually abused when I was 6, and I kind of didn't remember most of it because at 6 or whatever. And that was my crutch was the food. And, it was kind of weird because as I was growing up, all my parents are short. All my family's short. My sister's a little tall. She's like 5'9", 5'10". But by 14, I was already 6 foot.
Wow.
I didn't get hand-me-downs. And so my parents kept taking me to the doctor and saying, what is wrong with him? He's growing. He won't stop. And I kind of blocked that out too. My brother said, yeah, no, they took you all the time and the x-rays and all this. And it's like, because I was eating so much food, but also I have some, recessive Norwegian, like my mom's brother was 6'2". But my dad was like 5'8", 5'9". So I was like this huge giant, and I wouldn't stop growing. And, and part of that was because I ate everything. I just ate and ate and ate because that was my soothing. And then, by 10 years being Catholic, we had alcohol in the house. So I found alcohol at like 10 or 11 years old. So,
wow.
Right.
But I mean, with the trauma, there you go. Just another medication you're giving yourself, right?
Right. And then, the soothing part. I mean, that's, and everything we learn as a kid to soothe so we can survive is what we end up as adults doing with the food, with the stress. And, and it was weird because I ended up with a speech impediment at 6 years old, and it came out of nowhere. Nobody could figure it out. Well, now I know where it came from. And then the bullying, and then, growing so fast and being, like baby Huey, I was very uncoordinated. I was very big and just growing so fast, I was uncoordinated. So, that just caused the bullying and all that, and, drunk through high school and, all the good stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know how much you want to share, but what was that journey like? I mean, discovering that sexual assault was something that maybe was back there that led you down this path. And, what was that like? How did you kind of figure it out? How did you get through it? Well,
the thing was, is after the Spartan race, I said, okay, I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna get in shape, and everything's gonna be good. And I'm gonna be, it's not gonna be a problem. But, there was still some self-medicating, and there was still the stress and the anger. And, one of the big things is you learn or you react the way that your nervous system reacts the way you did when you were traumatized. All through your whole life after that happened. So I couldn't control my anger or my outburst or my reacting. I couldn't respond because of what I went through, and I didn't know any of this. So, but it worked okay being a chef because they're like, oh, he's a chef. They're chefs. That's what they do. Gordon Ramsay and all that. So,
right.
But so it was like after that, I was like drawn to different people that had different. They were talking about different traumas and stuff like this. And I ended up with a book by Bessel van der Kolk, and it's called Body Remembers. And basically he's a specialist in trauma, and he was talking about your body remembers the trauma chemically. So whenever you're triggered, you actually have the same exact chemical reaction you did back whenever the trauma happened, the acute trauma. And then I started reading his book, and I was reading into it, and then all of a sudden it triggered me, and I went flashback. I could smell the stale carpet. I could see the old carpet. I could see the acoustic ceiling with the dust on it. I could see the tan wall. I could see the rocks out. I was walking in the door, and the guy opened the door, and I could feel my body tensing up. I couldn't really see a lot more than that, but I could see the long hallway and the carpet. But the smell and the everything and the feeling, it was just like, so instantly I was like, oh shit, that's what happened. And then I started putting that back, and then I figured out, with what he was saying in the book, and that's where I started coming up with the what my book's about is the 6 stops that a leader has to overcome to be very successful. And a lot of that is you have to come to grips of what happened to you. You have to come to grips of your stress because everybody had something happen to them where they were a kid. Okay, you were traumatized. You had a traumatic experience. Someone died, or you created something. You created a traumatic experience for yourself, or you were never good enough. You were the son. You were the daughter or you were the son. A girl or a boy. You were the one that they never wanted. They wanted the other one, and you live with that your whole life. You were never good enough. I mean, that's 70% of the population is, they are never good enough. That's why they end up being like superstar leaders, because they have to prove something, and they don't know why. And we don't know why we're traumatized, why we react the way we do, or we don't know why, the grieving, when it just happens, it overtakes us. We end up depression, and people don't realize it. Once you start putting that together with what happened to you, and now you can figure out what your strengths are, because like traumatized people, they can help other traumatized people through what they've done, but also they learn to push through it. They're very hard-headed. They're very, I'm very hard-headed. It's like, almost like, you're not going to stop me no matter what. And, other people are, are never good enough. So they create this, narcissism or whatever. And, everybody has a problem, but not everybody knows they have a problem. So, but yeah, I worked through that, and it was going back to the basics of, you got to figure out what your values are and your priorities. And once you can figure that out, then you can figure your goals. You may end up being, if you really sit down and really write it out, you may find out you're in the wrong field, or you're just not right in the right seat on the right bus. So that's where a lot of people, and that's what the book's about, is finding out where you really, where's your intuition, because you're not listening to it. That little voice everybody covers up because of they're not good enough, or they've been traumatized, or you can't hear your intuition, and that is what directs you. And that's what's wrong with the world right now, is it's like everybody's distracted.
Right. And a lot of those things you're talking about, those behaviors are rewarded.
Oh yeah.
So then that's just going to reinforce these things, right? And especially, you think of the culture of, hold my beer, watch me do this, or challenge accepted, I'm going to do this, or watch me and I'm going to make this happen. And then sounds like from what you're saying here is a lot of those things could be covering up a trauma. But when we look at that from a societal point of view, like that's a hard-driven person. They're getting things done. I want to be like them. But really, they're just masking something.
Right. But at the end of the day, that's what, look at the divorce rate. Right. That's, they're not addressing their problem. And so they're taking it out on everybody around them. It's like that whole saying is like, and I can't remember who said it. I was trying to look it up. I couldn't find it. But it's like, if you put the man together, the world falls in place around him. When I found peace, everyone around me found peace. If I was not at peace, nobody around me is at peace. And that's how, that's how families are destroyed. Is, that whole alcoholic, DWI thing is like the wife and the kid. That's who I feel sorry for. Well, yeah, you feel sorry for them, but really you feel sorry for that person that can't heal themselves. They don't know they need to be healed, and they're destroying themselves. They didn't ask to be traumatized. They didn't ask to be not wanted. So, everybody that's, and I've got nothing good to say about a pedophile, and I've got, but at the end of the day, they were sexually abused.
Right.
Every single one of them was sexually abused by someone. They were transferring what happened to them to the next person, because, like my physical abuse of growing up as a child and being beat, I finally learned to stop that. That wasn't going to be my children, but somebody's got to break the chain, and that's the problem. We don't know. We don't know we're screwed up, and me trying to help people. Nobody's like, they're like, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, and it's like, you're not okay.
Yeah,
you're okay in your head.
That's like the key word. Like, I'm fine. Like, okay, wait, now we know you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's the whole. That's what I've stopped being a chef, and I just during all this COVID, and I had probably 2 or 3 burnouts after the 2019 run. And, with the COVID, we had short staff, we had inflation, we had, people trying to work, we had to give them more money. And I worked at high-end clubs, and they were like, you can't run a kitchen. It's like, You don't know what's going on. And they're like, yes, we do. We run $1 billion companies, because there's at the club I was at was, there's the new billionaires coming in, and they were on the board, and they're like, oh, you just can't run a business. It's like, you have no idea what's going on. And so they let me go in October of last year. And instead of doing that, I said, you know what? I found some mentors. I got in a mastermind, and, I'm like, I wanted to take my purpose, which I found, that's based off what I went through, and I want to help people. So, I've sacrificed a lot, and, but this is what it is now. I mean, this is my job. I'm not going to be a chef, and I could just go do that. It'd be fine. I could make my whatever 6 figures again and all that, but it's not my purpose. I wouldn't be fulfilled.
Right. Yeah. And especially when you've kind of discovered something that you discovered. And what made me interested in talking with you is not to say this maybe in a disrespectful way, but this is a common story. But not everybody shares it. Not everybody realizes it. And for you to go out there and share it and do it, you're going to do a lot more good than you would not being fulfilled, and maybe even falling back into your old patterns and whatnot, and just becoming maybe another statistic or something like that, versus getting out there and letting people know, like, hey, these traits you think you have are good. Maybe there's something else going on that you are burying, covering up, and talking about this and being vulnerable like you are. And I appreciate you sharing, some of these more vulnerable things. I think this is a greater good and a net positive in this world. And I really do appreciate, people like you, and especially, what you're doing and the book and everything, the little podcast tour and stuff you're doing. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I mean, a lot of like you said, a lot of people are walking around and they don't know they have a problem, and they die that way. And, you end up, I forgot who said it, but they said the most expensive real estate in the world is the graveyard. Because all the books that should have been written, all the music, all the people that should have been helped, all the ideals, that they were so caught up in being distracted because of their problems that they didn't realize they had or would not admit it. They were so distracted they never found their purpose. And so, and that's really sad, but the problem is, I would say, yeah, and that's the same thing why there's, you look at the leaders, it's 5% of the population are the leaders, because other people either don't want to be responsibility to make decisions, they can't be a leader, and they can't make decisions and can't handle responsibility, or they just can't handle pressure. And the reason they can't do that, or they can't move from that middle manager or whatever to the upper manager, is because their character, they haven't worked on their character because it's too painful. And they get distracted. Why do you think football's there? Why do you think baseball, NASCAR, all these things, and then, our devices that are supposed to be our communication wizards, they're ruining our lives because people spend all their time on there. And, I'm no different, but it's, and they say, all this is new, the distractions. I kid you not. I was like, saw a picture, and it was a subway, and it was early 1900s. And every single person had a newspaper, and they were distracting themselves. So it's not, this isn't nothing new. Trauma isn't new. Being not good enough is not new. This has gone on for millennia, somewhere. But to be able to address it with these modern times, it sucks trying to, it was hard for me to address it and admit it. But once you admit you have a problem, alcohol, sex, drugs,
pornography, food.
Perfectionism is a disease.
Right.
You're not good enough. It is not a good trait. And people who say, oh, I'm perfectionist, it's like, you don't understand what is wrong with you. And you're going to live this whole life, and you're going to make everybody around you miserable because you're a pain in the ass. But they end up divorced, and they don't know why. And they it's like, come on, guys, if y'all get your shit together. Sorry, but if you get your shit together, you can change your life. And if you change your life, I always say, your kids will never listen to you, but they'll watch you. People will not listen to what you say, but they watch what you do. And then they say, like, I lost the weight. And then I had people come, other chefs that were very large and all that. And they say, how did you do this? I didn't say a word to them, but it inspired them to stop drinking. You know, like one of my sous chefs, to stop drinking a case of beer a night, to lose 40 pounds, to get off his medications.
Nice.
You know, and I'm like, you're on your third divorce. There's a problem with you.
Yeah.
And I finally got him to therapy, and he had severe complex attachment issues. And people don't realize. I said, you know, I'll walk around, it's like attachment issue, complex attachment issue. You know, it's really, when you start studying all this, and that's what I ended up doing, was Freud and all these guys, all their different theories. And it's like, none of them are 100% right, but all of them are right. You know, if you start putting them together, you start seeing it, and you're like, wow, holy moly, like the attachment theory. That is, you know, amazing. You know, mine was a complex attachment, because I had no idea how my caretaker, which was my mom, would show up. Was she going to go batshit crazy and beat the crap out of me again?
Right.
Because I was a little shit, but then I was a little shit because I was traumatized. You know, so it's a vicious little circle. And somebody's got to break it. Somebody's got to stand up and say, no more.
And that's the thing. I think when people like you talk about their stories, we can see a child, like you were saying earlier, is all of a sudden, there's a sudden mark in time where you have now a problem. Like, he had no problem speaking before. He has a speaking problem. I think the more we talk about this, we can say, dang, you know what? Billy was fine. And a couple of weeks ago, he started stuttering, and then, or whatever it is. And then we can start saying, oh, there's something happened. And I think we can intervene earlier in these people's lives and start to change this a lot sooner, instead of going 40, 50 years.
Yeah. You know, 6 of one, half dozen another, because, you know, I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't. You know, and that's another thing, is like, when you look at the marriage rate, you know, you have people who have all these attachment issues and complex attachment and all this other thing. It's like, damaged people go to damaged people, because the people that aren't damaged in that way don't want to deal with these people. And the ones that are damaged know that these people don't want to deal with them. So they find someone who is just as messed up as them. And you know, sometimes that even works though. But when you get the other two mixed together, it doesn't work, because it's like, he's an alcoholic, or she's an alcoholic, or she's abusive, or, you know, she's batshit crazy, or, you know, I didn't see any of this, you know, or, you know, was that tequila makes her clothes fall off, all that stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
You don't find that out until later, because people don't talk. They don't talk about their values. They don't talk about their goals and their priorities. And, you know, they just get married, they have sex, whatever, kids, and then all of a sudden they're married. And then, you know, 6 down the road, they're like, you know, strangers. And he's working all the time. She's working all the time. They don't see each other, you know, and then they're like, you know, I don't love you anymore. It's like, but if you would have worked on your problems and stop trying to hide behind the bottle, hide behind the whatever, and deal with your problems, because we're embarrassed to talk about it. I mean, we're grown men. I'm a very, I would be called a very aggressive person. I'm a very kind person, but, you know, being traumatized and bullied my whole high school, you know, I learned martial arts. I learned, you know, I got my training in martial arts. I trained with swords. I did all of this. And, you know, because I was like, you know what? People aren't going to screw with me anymore. If you're going to screw with me, not dealing with that shit. And and then people, if I would have never figured out my problem, then I just would have been that person that doesn't take any shit. And it, you know, and there's tons of those people out there. You see them all over.
Right.
And they're very dangerous people. And the problem is they're not healed. Yeah. They don't have peace they're not at peace with themselves. And if you can't be with your peace with yourself, no one around you, the world, you know, it's you against the world. And it's not the world doesn't give a shit about us. It really doesn't. It just, stuff happens to us, and we take, our perception is that it is, you know, that person's attacking me. It's like, no, that person's damaged too. And you're having a bad day, and he's having a bad day, and now y'all are fighting, and it had nothing to do with any one of y'all. It had to do with the situation and not addressing, you know, not growing up. I mean, it's, you know, it took me 50 something years to grow up. That sucks.
Right. Yeah. I got lucky. I think I kind of recognized in my early 20s that I was doing a lot of things to impress my dad because that's where I was abused. My dad, being the oldest, they had their old school standards and stuff like that. And like I told my wife before, we ever had a child, I was like, I'm not going to be that person, and my son, he asked me stories about things, and I was telling him a story about something. And then I told him, I was like, yeah, and I walked in the door, my dad punched me in the mouth, and he was like, what? Why did he do that? And to me, I was like, what do you mean? Why did he do that? Of course, that's what he would do. But he's like, you've never, ever done that to me, but I made sure that I was never going to be like that. And I'm sure I'd still do things, but that, at least that one aspect, I knew that I was going to break that cycle. And it's nice to see that he doesn't even understand what that even means to be disciplined in that kind of way. But to me, I still kind of remember back that day. I don't know what happened or whatever I was doing. I think I was quite drunk, but I just said, you know what? I'm done with this. Why am I trying to impress this guy? This is not, I'm not doing the things I want to do. I'm not, pursuing the things I want to do because I'm just trying to see if I do this, will this make him happy? If I do this, will I finally be accepted or whatever it was that I was searching for? And one day I just was like, enough of this. And it was like this weird, crazy, just weight lifted off my shoulders, and I just never looked back.
Yeah. So, yeah, everybody talks about inheritance for your kids. Mm-hmm. My inheritance, my kids is what I went through. They know, and I want them to know. And then I point out other people to them. I'm like, that's, like my son, it's almost a joke sometimes. I'm helping my father-in-law. It's a heavy industrial equipment rental business. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of people that have attachment issues, mm-hmm. and they're very triggerable, and they're very, and my son, they'll walk in and I'm like, attachment issue. I'm like, complex attachment, and then because we're just like pointing him out, he's 25, but it's like, if you knew what I know now, mm-hmm. now your life's going to be so much better. You're going to go so much farther because now, mm-hmm. if you know how to deal with people and what has happened to them, you mm-hmm. stop being angry at them and you start feeling
compassion.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's like, that guy's an asshole. He's drunk. And it's like, he was abused.
Yeah.
He is not okay with himself. He can't be alone with himself. That's why he drinks. Mm-hmm. That's why he parties. Because when he's alone with himself, he has the thoughts that he doesn't want to have, because the thoughts are the truth. And the truth sucks. It's hard to handle. That's why it's easier to be distracted with whatever. And it's rough. And it's not something, most of the population will never, ever address they don't even know what they have a problem. Right. They just know this is the way I was, when my dad was, when my mom was, whatever. Mm-hmm. This is what grandpa was. They all went to prison. I went to prison. It's like, no.
Yeah. They taught you to be that way. You learn these lessons from them. You're emulating these people.
Right.
Yeah.
Mental health issues are passed down because trauma is passed down.
Right.
And, family medical issues are passed down because family diets are passed down.
100%.
And it's like, people don't realize that. It's like, the reason that your parents had diabetes and you had diabetes and your kids are getting diabetes is because of the food you eat.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I just had this conversation with someone. They're talking to me about something like, oh, it's just a genetic. I was like, and I was saying this exact thing to them. I was like, look at these family. Look at this family. Everybody's, yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, why are they fat? And they're like, well, because they all eat like that. And I was like, exactly. You just taught each other all what to do. And nobody, like, back to the other thing, nobody broke that cycle. Nobody said, this is not how we do. This is maybe how grandma did it or mom did it or dad did it, but this is not how we do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, my son's very large. He's fat. My daughter's fat and my mm-hmm. wife is fat. And, mm-hmm. I went from 300 pounds to like just under 230. But now I'm like at 250, but I've kept this weight for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go, before I'd go down and then go past back what I did before.
Right.
So, but, my wife, her coping mechanism is food. real bad, is sugar. Oh,
yeah, mine too.
Yeah. And so my kids, their soothing method is food too, and it ends up, but it doesn't really help because the commercialization of processed foods. I mean, it's cheaper to buy a freaking, well, I don't know about now, but a Happy Meal than a salad.
Right.
It's a bottle of water costs the same thing, if not more, than a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Right. Right.
And they know we're addicted to it. They're peddling it. The ultra refined processed flours. They are worse than sugar because they've been bleached or genetically not modified, but they've been bred to become higher yield, better pest resistance, and it changes the gluten structure because we didn't have gluten sensitivity before the 70s.
No, right. It wasn't.
That's when they started hybridizing the wheat for the yield and for the gluten content.
Right.
And so now it's like we're poisoning. We're the Romans, and we're going toward that bottom.
Yeah.
We're on a downward slope. We're going to be a society, and people look, but it's worldwide. But it's really bad with America because we're prosperous. I mean, even our people that are in poverty are doing better than middle class, or that might be middle class in third world countries.
Right. Yeah. The poorest people in this country are wealthier than, I think, something like 90% of the world.
Right. They have clean water. They have shelter. I mean, yes, it was Section 9 housing or whatever, but they have some sort of food. There's food stamps. There's whatever government assistance and all this. They don't have that third world countries.
No.
So
yeah. So I teach my my kids and stuff. I'm like, this water in this toilet is cleaner than most people's drinking water. I say, you guys got to understand that. And I think it's hard for us to, especially if you were born and raised here, to understand like this is not normal. Like, everybody's, homes are air conditioned. Everybody has all these things. Everybody's got phones and, all these things. These are not normal things, abundance of food, I mean, at least most people do in this country, this is not normal. Most people don't know what, it is to have an abundance of food, to be fat because you have too much food.
Right.
Yeah. And also too, nowadays we have this victim mentality and stuff, and there's nobody holding anybody accountable anymore. And if you try to hold somebody accountable for being too overweight or for being this, it's like, oh, you're just this phobic now. Even this new disease I heard about. If you are conscious about your food choices, if you read the labels and you I shouldn't eat these ingredients, I shouldn't have these types of things, I should try to buy organic, or I should try to that's a mental disease now. They're trying to make that a mental disorder. And I was like, I don't think you people aren't seeing what's happening. Like this is a captured thing to continue to make us more weak the way we are, the more more soft and easily controllable and all these things. And it's really sad.
Well, but it's corporate greed. It's pushing all this. Yeah. It's like the thing, I saw something on the news and it showed like one person saying, was talking about the election, and then there's another person, and then they've got like 48 or 100 people on the screen at the same time, and they're saying the same exact thing at the same exact rate in the same exact words. Yeah,
it's just a script. Everybody's reading a script.
Right, and it's about. I mean, it's like you look at some of the big companies, Procter and Gamble. If they have competition, they buy them.
Right.
And same thing with now the Phillips Morris, the cigarette. They're buying all the processed food companies. They're selling addiction is what they sell. They're really good at it.
Yes.
And so now they're peddling sugar and processed foods. It's like there's more processed foods. I mean, if we would just eliminate processed foods from our diet, if we would just eliminate seed oils.
Yeah, that's become a big one.
If you look at everything, every baked item on the shelf, every salad dressing, and there's soybean oil. It's not good for us.
Yeah, I mean, coffee creamer, your yogurts, the simplest things. It's unbelievable. Yes, I have this conversation so many times with people. Yeah, but people don't understand. I mean, it's almost impossible to buy something in a package nowadays that doesn't have added seed oil, added sugar, soy something. I saw a pre-marinated piece of meat the other day that had cellulose fiber. I was like, that's wood. Why is there wood fiber in my marinated meat? But I mean, it makes things cheaper. I have a theory, it kind of way back in, hundreds, thousands of years ago, one way to control a village or control a population when you took over, you march your troops in war, you took over a village to control the population, to control the men, you got rid of the meat, you got rid of the foods, and you gave them sparse breads and stuff like that or whatever. And I think that's something that they're trying to do here in not necessarily just America, but it seems like a lot of the Western developed world, they're trying to weaken everybody and keep everybody weak. And I think this is part of that push with all this different plant-based stuff, which is just processed foods anyway. It's just all these chemicals and all these things combined together to make a chicken nugget or a hamburger or a hot dog. But I think that's something to do with that, is to keep everybody weak and keep everybody down and keep everybody in that state of chronic inflammation. We can't think straight. We can't sleep well. And you can't think, you can't fight back. I think there's something to that.
We're living in the matrix.
Yeah, sometimes.
We're like some people who got that thing stuck right in the back of their head right now, and they're walking around.
Yeah.
And they're just, they have to have, it's, they're drinking Cokes and I see everybody, they don't drink coffee anymore. They drink, 2 or 3 energy drinks or,
right.
Or, and it's like, God, you know what's in that crap?
Yeah.
You know what it's doing to you? It's sterilizing the population with the sugar and the diabetes and the seed oils. It's like our birth rate's plummeting.
Yeah.
And then we won't even talk about just what happened. I'm not even going to get into that because that whole pandemic crap.
Yeah.
It's like we're being slowly dismembered as a society.
Yeah. And I think very much strategically in America, because I think we have the strongest constitutional laws. And there's a lot of languaging, especially the thing that drives me kind of a little bit crazy is that, saying this is the threat to our democracy. I think what people don't realize is America's not a democracy. But if you convince everybody that it is a democracy, then you start to bring those democratic type things in, and then you're able to overthrow the thing. I think once, hopefully not in my lifetime, they get that done, they'll be able to overthrow the Constitution of that, and slowly eroding these things away and convincing everybody we live in a democracy and everybody has a vote. And that's not it. The founding fathers said, if we ever became a democracy, we failed. Yeah, and I don't think people understand that, but that's, I think, part of something going on. That it all to me is all encompassing. Like you're saying, the news thing. Oh, this is a threat to our democracy. Okay, that's wrong. Oh, don't eat meat. Okay, now you're making people weak. Eat all these foods. It's okay to have these things. It's all part of some big thing to corral us all into whatever it be, some type of one world government type thing or whatever, or just to make us weak and controllable and commodities. We're a commodity. Yes, we are. Yeah. Especially, the department at your work is called Human Resources. That should just tell you right there, you're just a resource. Yeah, but when, back in just a few years ago, 10 years ago, who would have thought that a conspiracy theorist was a homesteader? Right, yeah. A concerned parent. A self-sufficient person is a terrorist. Yes. It's like, what the hell? And that, everybody has the right to make me bow down to what they believe. And it's like, no. Yeah. I'm going to point out what's wrong. And when I do it, like you said, you're labeled, you're whatever phobic. And that is basically, or, it's crazy. This is crazy times we're living in. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's part of that type of languaging. And as I talk to people a lot about, especially my son, is language is so important. The words you say and the meaning you give them, that is so important. And so I think they're trying to capture that. And I lost my train of thought with that. But shoot. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. It just really comes down to, they want us divided, because when we're divided, we're distracted. And when we're distracted, they can make laws, they can put stuff in our food, they can, it's like the whole glycophosphate thing. It's like, oh my God, it's like they spray it on wheat and rice so that the plant dies faster so they can harvest it sooner. Right. Yeah. Has nothing to do with weeds, has nothing to do. They're spraying. And then so now everybody's eating this stuff. And it is causing issues. Finally they're coming out and say, well, it causes cancer. It's like, duh. Yeah. So it's the like you said earlier, it's the governments against, and the corporations. Well, actually, it's not even that anymore.
governments don't matter.
Yeah.
Now you've got BlackRock and you've got all this. Now you have these huge corporations, you know, who control such a large market that they control the people.
Right.
It's the same thing as what happened back in, you know, that caused the French Revolution. You know, the people, it's like they finally said, you know, screw this.
Right. Enough is enough. Yeah.
That's what's happened. We're coming to that point.
We are. We absolutely are. Yeah. And it's gonna be sad when all this comes kind of tumbling down, or whatever it winds up being. Hopefully not, but it does seem like, you know, there's going to be some type of revolutionary type thing, especially when you start pushing these two groups together. You put them, you're putting them head to head. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to any of that.
No, I mean they're telling us that we can't control our kids, we can't raise our kids, that we as the parent are not good enough to raise our own kids.
Right.
We're not smart enough to tell our kids, no, that's not right.
Right.
Or to point that out. You know, and you know, this dysmorphia, you know, where, you know, I'm not a boy or I'm not a girl. And it's like, you are. And, you know, unfortunately, my daughter had to go through that. I had to go through it with her. And I'm just like trying to point this out. But the thing is the society, the certain part of it wants to capitalize on that. But they said 90% of the kids that have dysmorphia, by the time they come out of puberty or reach into puberty or above, it's gone. 90% of it, it's naturally gone. They realize it's like they come to grips with what, you know, what they were actually born as.
Right.
But when you have people that were sending propaganda, and then us as parents can't stop that propaganda so that we can heal our kids, we can heal ourselves, so we can heal our country, our town, you know, we're now terrorists.
Right.
I'm a terrorist.
Yeah. For being a parent, a good parent, maybe even.
For being a parent that tells the truth. Nobody likes the truth when you're making up lies.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hear the truth when they don't like what you have to say. Yeah, that's a real sad problem. And social media and stuff is exacerbating it, and the internet and everybody. And I think the worst thing is, like you're saying, is it's so sad that you can't have a voice in your own child's life. And if you do, you're probably going to go to jail, or your child's going to be taken from you. And it's really sad. And it's I mean, talk about another cycle of trauma. I mean, here we go. I mean, they're literally created.
But, you know, it's all going to be different, but that's that whole point. But if we learn to self-lead, if we learn to take care of ourselves, then we don't have to worry about our kids, because they're going to see us. Right. They're not going to hear us. They're going to see us and then go, something's different. I like that.
Right.
You know, it's like, that's the thing that people are missing in their life. And it's like they see someone who's passive, or they're not rousable, and, you know, they're not, so now they're a wuss or whatever. And it's like, no, really, that guy will kill you if you mess with you.
Right.
You know, he's, what is that? Don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
Right.
And that's what the world is doing, is they're saying you're weak. And, you know, Jordan Peterson said that perfectly. He says, you think a strong man is dangerous? Wait till you see what a weak man will do, because he's 100%. A coward.
Right. Exactly.
He'll stab you in the back. He'll shoot you in the back. He'll blow up your car. He won't look you in the eyes face to face.
Right.
He's going to come around. He's going to stab you in the back. And that's where, you know, we have, you know, it's that sad. It's, you know, weak men make a great economy, and then, or world. And then, you know, great economy creates weak men, and weak men create hard times. That's what it is. Good times, bad, hard times. And we're in that cycle. It's like, you know, but they're like, you know, our kids are going to go be all weak and we're going to lose it. It's like, no, they're not. You know, I talk to my kids, they talk to me, we still have conversations. Yeah. And they're like, a lot of us see it. It's like the people that are the problem, that tell us that we're all going to hell in a handbasket, the weak people are not the majority. They sound like the majority.
They're just the loudest
noise, but that quiet majority is still out there that are patriots. one of my favorite shows to watch, and my kids laugh at me and all that, is The Patriot.
Mm-hmm.
It's that moment where he's like, I won't fight, and I won't have people fight in my stead because of my kids and all this. And they're like, oh, you're hiding and all this. But then if you go a little further in there, when his son was in the house and he's looking out the window and all the people have ran away, it's like the fighting and killing, it's happening right on your doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize what violence is.
Yeah.
It's like you want to be disagreeable, and you want to be you want to try to shove this down my throat. Mm-hmm. It's like you have no idea where this will lead. Mm-hmm. And like you were talking about revolution, it's not that I'm a revolutionist or mercenary or whatever. It's just like there's a difference between right and wrong.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I think they stepped over the line, is when they started, involving the kids and backing the parents into a thing. I think that's where they really cross the line. And that's if whatever movement they're trying to do, I don't think they realized when you start involving the children, especially, is when you cross the line. That's when people are going to stand up and not going to take it anymore. It's like, fine, we had no problem for, I don't know, whatever, 4 million years being however you want to be. Now when you start forcing people to do things, that's when we have a problem.
Right. Yeah. And then just to get back to where we were at the beginning, but this is all has to do with people that aren't healed.
Yep.
All this has to do with people, because the people who are the loudest are the ones that are the most damaged.
Right. Exactly.
A person's not going to argue about gender or racism or equality or any of it if they're not healed. I mean, if they are healed, they're not going to, it doesn't bother them.
Right.
The people who get all riled up are the ones that are, emotional damaged and traumatized. And if we can help people be themselves, find their purpose, to find their fulfillment, to find their life, to get their life back, to get their peace. If we could do that for society would just flip over. I forgot, it wasn't Cal Newport, it was somebody, but the book, The Tipping Point.
Malcolm Gladwell, I think.
Malcolm Gladwell, yes. And if we can get to that point, and it's like the subway thing. It's not the violence in the subway. He just addressed the graffiti, and at a certain point, it stopped.
Right.
Because, and all of it in our lives, it's that tipping point. And I always say, that's one of the best points it's like, we just have to get to the tipping point, and it's the problem with society is not the problem. It's the symptom. And society treats the symptom. It doesn't treat the problem. Because if we address the problem, then the system will fall apart, because you can't treat the symptoms anymore. They don't want to cure. They don't want to deal with the problem. They want to deal with the racism. They want to deal with the food, the medical industry, the drug industry. They want that to keep going. If we address the problem, the symptoms go away.
Right.
And all this other stuff, they have no power over us. Then we don't buy all these processed foods. We don't buy all this sugar water. We don't buy, heroin in a can, in a plastic thing. And it's worse than heroin and cocaine is sugar addiction or carbohydrate addiction.
Right.
But it's being used against us.
Yes. It weaponized. Yeah, exactly.
But if we heal ourselves, they can't, it's like you can't fight with a strong man, because he knows he's strong. Everybody's like, martial arts, oh, he's dangerous. It's like, no, you learn martial arts. When you get to black belt, you have learned that fighting is not the answer. And it's going to be more of like, if they can't control themselves, I'm going to control them. But then you can escalate it up, but you have a controlled response. Like if you're fighting someone who is not trained, they may actually kill that person.
Yes.
Because they don't know what works, what doesn't work, how to do it, how to
how much force, pressure. Yeah.
Right. They don't understand what force does. That's when they pick up something and they hit that person. But if it's someone who's trained in the martial arts, they're going to start to control them. They're going to get out of the way. They're going to start doing that. And, ultimately they don't want to escalate. Those aren't the people to go to jail for accidentally killing someone. The people that go for fighting and accidentally kill someone are drunk. And why are they drunk? Because they have issues.
Yes.
Or or they're weak and they pick up something or a gun, and that's why they go to jail. It's not because they knew how to fight and protect themselves. It's that they didn't understand the power that they willed uncontrollably. And that's the same in our life. If we can't control ourselves, we're going to hurt other people. You know, we hurt our families, our wives, our kids, our people at work. We unintentionally hurt people because we don't understand the power that we can't control. So if we can control ourselves, guess what? The people around us are going to be protected. So, I mean, it all comes full circle.
It does.
The problem that we see is not the problem. That's the symptom. You know, you heal the man and the world will fall around. And that's, I believe that wholeheartedly. And that's what my whole thing is to point out. And, you know, I pointed out to chefs, it's like, what is that? The prophet in his hometown is unrecognized or not valored or honored because, you know, I pointed out to chefs and they're like, oh yeah, screw you. Oh yeah, I got no problem. It's like, you just proved my point.
Yeah, right.
You know, you're angry, you're overweight, you're alcohol, you're on your third marriage. It's like there's a problem. No, I don't have a problem. And that's the problem. You won't admit we're too manly, we're too shamed. You know, Brene Brown says it perfectly. We're you know, the shame keeps us from addressing our problems. We're ashamed that we were abused. We're ashamed that we're not good enough. So we don't address it because of shame. It's like, come on, guys, you got ripped off the Band-Aid. You got, you know, you got to like heal yourself, man. Please, for you.
Yeah. Do you think that's a cultural, maybe American or Western thing where we have that, or we're not taught or shown that masculineness or that vulnerability?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have the you know, I mean, even you go back to like the Jewish communities and, you know, African communities and Latino communities, there's a coming of a man and a coming of a woman. We don't have that in our society. We've shunned that. We've beat it out of our ethnicity. You know, it's like we don't do that anymore. I mean, it's like, you know, we don't, you know, we look down on people who are ethnically different than us, you know, but that's the beauty of the world, you know. I mean, it's, you know, there's still issues everywhere in the world,
right?
You know, in Russia, in Israel, and there's still, I mean, there's so much trauma. Like you look at Israel, there's a lot of them are so angry. I worked with some Israelis that were in the Israeli army, and you talk about attachment issues,
right?
You know, it's not that it's isolated; it's that they don't talk about it,
right?
It's not, you don't talk about it. You know, it's like it's so. But that's the way the society has been built. I mean, everybody doesn't talk about it, but everybody suffers. You know, you're always at war with yourself, so you're always at war with everybody else. So, I mean, you know, I want world peace.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm not a beauty pageant lady, but I want world peace, and it's possible.
It is. It is. If I want to circle back something real quick here. What was something unexpected, either hardship or surprise in your whole journey?
You know, the hardship, well, you know, it was really weird. One of the surprises was that sexual trauma thing. And then because I went into a deep, dark depression for a couple of months until I slowly, you know, I studied the shadow, and that's when I went through Jung and all the guys. I went through all their theories, and Freud and you know, the attachment theory, and then you know, the shadow. I went through all of that, and then that's how I got the piece together. It's like, okay, I'm not, because, you know, I had depression, I had bad depression, but, you know, a lot of people say I have a mental illness. It's like, no, you know, and I thought it was mentally ill, but I figured out, you know, it was that aha moment. It's like, I'm not mentally ill. I'm mentally unsure. I'm mentally unaware. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not, mental illness, like depression, there's very few people that are clinically really depressed. Most of them have issues. And if you address that's what I was trying to say, mental issues. I didn't have mental illness. I have mental issues. And then was really, like an eye opening. And people don't want to hear that. They have that badge of honor. It's like, I'm going to depress, and my wife hate me, my kids hate me. And I'm like, well, I had some people I were working with, and I'm like, well, what are you doing? He goes, well, I lost my job because of my depression. I look like a homeless guy. I'm overweight, and I'm all this. I said, go get a haircut. Go walk outside. Go get in the sun. No, it's like your wife doesn't love you anymore, and your kids, because you gave up. You gave up on you. And then when you gave up on you, they got the feeling, and it's quite literally slapped in their faces. You gave up on them. And nobody wants to be given up on.
Right. Especially a child.
And then, and then I see this guy, and then I had to just cut him off and say, no more. I'm not going to, I don't answer any of his emails. I blocked him because it got that bad to where he was, basically accusing me of his problem, because I was pointing him out. And I was like, your wife's leaving you because of you. And it's like, and then anyway, but that was that whole thing. And, one of the other things is, as a chef, you have to be very demanding. That's why there's like, you see Gordon Ramsay and you see that show, and, he's all like Hell's Kitchen. That's like G-rated kitchen.
Wow.
It's in the real world. I mean, now it's not as bad, but when I was in the 90s, that was, Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
That was kitchen life.
Wow.
Chefs throwing stuff, yelling at you. And I was that way too. I didn't throw anything, but I would, address people in the whole line. It was a shame thing, but that's where I learned. I learned from an Austrian master chef. And, that's the way the kitchens were. It's very hard. It's very cutthroat. It's very physical. It's very, there's a lot of yelling and there's a lot of screaming, because, during service, and you've got, you're doing 200 covers in like 4 hours. And say you 200 people, and they've touched, let's just say they had 3 plates, 4 pieces of silverware, 3 glasses. Multiply that by 200 people. You have to move that with food on it and with drink in this amount of time. It's all organized chaos. They're screaming. There's, he forgot to put it down, so now you're holding the whole thing. So, I mean, it's really aggressive. And what I found that after I healed myself is I couldn't do that anymore. And then so I started being more compassionate with my cooks. And, you can kind of say I lost my grip as far as, because now all of a sudden how I used to manage, I couldn't manage like that anymore, because I couldn't be that asshole. So that was really, and that's when I decided, with the burnout, and it's just like one day I'm like, this is not what I want to do anymore. And then, it was funny because they brought me into the office, and, he's like, the board, you haven't done anything wrong. It's not that, that, because you everything's good. The HR lady was very upset that they were letting me go, and they just want something different. Because we had all the different inflation and the job people and turnover. We had people that would work for a week and then they would leave, and we had people that just walked out, and because stress and all this. And it's like, at that point, it was like, when they told me that, I was like, really? I can go?
Yeah.
I'm done? And they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. I was like, I don't have to, because we were about to go into about 80-hour weeks.
Oh, wow.
We were about to go into the holiday season. I wouldn't see my family, from like right before Thanksgiving all the way till like the 18th of December.
Wow.
And it's like, they're like, yeah, you're good. You can, we'll pack your stuff up. You can go. You don't have to like face everybody. I'm like, dude, I am good. Dude, this is the best thing that's happened to me, because I had already started working on my purpose. I'd already started making a plan to leave being a chef even though I made lots of money.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I figure out that? That's when I spent a lot of money on a mastermind. I got in with a group of people. It's that 5 people you surround yourself with.
Right.
I've surrounded myself with 20 people that are like-minded, that are trying to do their purpose. And that's, that was, I packed all my stuff up and I was like, bye everybody. And, they're like, are you okay? You're like shocked. And I'm like, no, I'm not shocked. I'm shocked that I've been released without parole. I was like, wow, I can go home now. Wow. I can see my dogs. I can see my wife. It was just such a relief, because that switch of personality, all of a sudden, it's like you finally realize you hate something and you've done it all your life. And then it's like I always say it's that Forrest Gump moment. He's running. All of a sudden he stops. Everybody's like, wait, he's going to say anything. And he's like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's that moment. And all of a sudden it's like what you've been doing for so long, beating your head against the corner of a wall, all of a sudden you stop and you go, wow, there's something else other than this thing that sucked me in most of my life. And people don't realize that when you find peace and you find your purpose, it's like all of a sudden you have that Forrest Gump moment. I think I'm going to go home. And it's like people, until you have that moment, you won't understand that whole movie. I don't think it's like, because it's like that change, it's like Lieutenant Dan in The Storm. He goes through that moment and then he found peace with himself. Forrest found peace with himself. And all of a sudden they don't have to do what they've been doing their whole life. They don't have to keep drinking. They don't have to keep being abusive. They don't have to keep being an asshole. They don't have to be violent. They don't have to be, lying, cheating, perfectionism. They don't have to do any of this anymore, because they can just stop, because they realize that was the disease.
Yeah. Being content, completing something, accomplishment. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times I think it seems like we pass by those things. It's like you set a goal or an ambition and you get, okay, that was great. Awesome. What's next? It's like you didn't even appreciate what you dreamed of or you wanted so bad.
Right. You just blew past to the next thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how many things if we all took a second, look around our houses and find something that you wanted so bad. And maybe you saved, maybe you took a second job or you did a little extra thing on the side and you're like, I just want to get this new thing. And then a week or two later, you don't even care about it. Just if you went back to that thing and just go, what would I do now? What would I pay now for this thing? I never even appreciated. I bet you if a lot of us looked around our house, we would realize that so many things we wanted that we don't even appreciate anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another thing. It was, now it's like, I used to be owned by my possessions. Now I'm just like, oh yeah, we can sell that at auction. We can sell this. It's okay. And my wife's like, well, we can't get rid of this stuff. And I'm like, it's stuff. It's not stuff. It's like, it is stuff. So, that was another, it's that whole, they laugh at people. They go, go find enlightenment. No, enlightenment's real. There's peace in enlightenment. It's like you realize, like you step back from the matrix. You step out of that, and then you can see everybody, all the robots. You could just see, them being cold and just like you corralled, and you just step back from it, and it's like, and there's a few other people, but there's not that many right now. There needs to be more.
And there's freedom in that, not being attached to things, being able to be able to pick up and let go and move on and let go. And there's a lot of freedom in that.
Yeah. So
one thing as I was digging through all your stuff, I thought was really interesting. I wanted to talk about was what are people missing about either being deliberate or doing things or just in general being deliberate in their actions and the things that they do in their life?
Well, I mean, that's where I came up with that, the deliberate evolution. It's like you have to deliberate about what you want, about your progress, about your family, about your plans, because you don't just fall up a mountain. It doesn't happen. You have to be deliberate. Deliberate means that you planned it out. You went through the scenarios. You figured out what you need. You figured out where your stops were, where your end point. And that's a lot of people, they don't have an end point.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I just did a masterclass and it was on decisions. And that's the whole thing, is you have to be deliberate about your decisions. If you're not deliberate about them, then you're not going to make all the right decisions. Decisions, only probably 99.9% of the decisions are not fatal.
Right.
They can be lessons if we decide we're going to learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, a lot of people will not be decisive. They will not be deliberate about their life. They won't be deliberate about their family. They won't be deliberate about a lot of things. And, it's like, and the other part of that is, when you learn your values and your priorities, that whole thing between reaction and response, there's only one thing that's between them. It's knowledge. And if people don't take the time when they're not having to make a decision to figure out what their goals will come later, but your values and your priorities. It's like, when you figure out what your values and your priorities is, you can figure out your goal, not goals, your goal, your North Star, your point of reference, that one thing. Because if you go in that one direction, that's not going to be the place where you're going to end up.
Right.
Because you don't even know the questions you need to ask to get the answers that you need to figure out what you need. We don't even know that until we get on the road and figure out, hey, we need this, we need that. And it's like, and you get a detour, and it's like, some of the best things you've ever had on vacation was from a detour. That's not the case. We're in an RV and we're going around, and it's like, even as kids, it's like we ended up over here and it's like, wow, that was great. But it changed. If you detours in your life, you haven't even met all the people that's going to help you get to where you need to be. We haven't even met them yet. We don't even know their names. We don't even know we need them yet. And then when you're deliberate about it, you deliberately say, this is my North Star. This is where I'm going. And then you make a plan and you go and you stick to it. And then also, when you figure out your priorities, when you have to make a decision, when you make that decision, you make it by responding, because you already know what's important to you. You've already figured it out. You've gone over it, and you have to get it out of your head. The problem is we ruminate things in our head. That's the worst place to do anything, because we suck. We all suck. Because we go to sleep, we wake up, we get distracted. Squirrel, that's all it takes. And then all of a sudden we lose that, that one thought that you would have like changed your life. That one thing is it's gone. And it's, you may never get it again. But when you take it out of your head and put it on paper, and then you can like move the emotions away. You can move the everybody else's emotions. So you can look at it very analytically and go, that's not feasible, or that's feasible. Or it's like, I really don't really care about that car. It was the feeling I got from the car. So really any vehicle would work. You know what I mean? It's so it's you go through all that, and then you get to the point where it's your priorities. So now when you ask me a question, I know the answer. I know how to respond. I don't have to react, because we react because we're surprised. Because we don't know the answer. It's like a school teacher asking you, hey, what is the answer to that? And all of a sudden you're like, you weren't even paying attention. So you're going to react and say, oh, you always pick on me. You always do this and always. But if you respond and you've been deliberate about what your values are, and then what your priorities, when they ask you a question, you're going to respond in what's the best for you at that moment. There was one English rowing team. I don't know if you've heard of this one, but they came up anyway. They were not the biggest, strongest team. They weren't the fastest guys. And so they were at the World Cup, and they lost again. And England had not won in 80-something years, even got on the podium at the Olympics. Well, the team captain, he got with the people, and, to cut it really short, is they decided we need to come up with one goal, one value, one priority. And that's it. And one question that we're going to ask every single time that some situation comes up, we're going to ask one question. Will it make the boat go faster? Period. So it's like, oh, we're going to do this leg workout. We hate leg workouts. Will it make the boat faster? Yes, we're going to do this leg workout until we cry. Okay. Hey, that was rough. Let's go to the pub at night. And then the question was, is that going to make the boat faster? And the answer was no. So we're not going to the pub. And they did that for 4 years. They won first place in the Olympics against the Aussies, against everybody by a boat length, which is unheard of. And they weren't the biggest, they weren't the strongest, but they had decided what they wanted. They've been deliberate about evolving into the person or the team that could do that. That's that whole evolution thing, is to evolve into, because, to get to my next level, I actually have to evolve into that person. I have to become that imposter and not have that imposter syndrome, because we're not really imposters, but we are. We're not frauds because we're trying to do it. We're just bad at it. Right. But we have to evolve into that person that's going to get that promotion, that's going to marry that girl or that boy, that's going to whatever, do that one thing. We have to, I had to evolve into the person that could run a 3-mile, 20-something obstacle Spartan race. I couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't do it when I started. I had to evolve into that person. And that, that's that whole point is, first place and second place in sports is this far.
Right.
What people don't realize, it's like, this is what's possible for you. Your potential is just 1 or 2 steps past your possible. But you have to actually go past your possible, because when you hit your potential, guess what? It's not your potential anymore. It's your possible. Now you have more potential. So
I like that. I'll let you like that. Your potential now becomes your possible, and it's just so on and so forth forever.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's your personal best wasn't your personal best until you hit your personal best. Right. But now it's not going to be your personal best if you keep sticking with it. Right. And that's what we all have to understand. That's where that whole deliberate evolution is. You have to be deliberate about evolving into the person that can do what your goals are. Because you can't do them. And if you can do them, it's not your potential. It's not your goal. It's just a step. If I could already run a Spartan race and say, well, I'm going to do that, it wouldn't be significant, because it's just, all I got to do is, I can have a cigarette, drink a beer, and I go run, and it's fine. I'm already in shape. Right. But when you bite off more than you can chew, I used to say all the time, it's like, bite off more than you can chew, because you may never get a bite again. Everybody's like, don't bite off more than you can chew. I'm like, you need to bite off way more than you think is possible, because it is possible. It's going to take you a step and a step and a step and a step. So,
like Goggins says, we only do 40%.
We're at 40% when we want to quit.
Yep.
The mind says quit. So the body is still 60% left.
Yeah. That's so.
Yeah.
Other than getting your book, what is that one foundational step people can start to get on this journey of doing these deliberate things, these deliberate, hyper-focused kind of thing you're talking about?
So I have actually a checklist, and if they,
Oh, I do. Yes, I read that. That was really good.
Yeah. But if you go on, if you text Dan to 33777, you can get my deliberate checklist. And it basically just goes deliberate life checklist. And it's some questions that you can ask yourself. It's like, are you ready for this? And, are you capable of this? And, if you read through that, then you're going to get like, either you're going to feel good about yourself or you're not going to feel good. Either way, it's like, I don't care who you are, it's going to level you up, because it's possible. And, a real simple thing. And I did this on my, the masterclass I just had. They can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook, and they can find the replay of that. But it's a simple thing of finding your values and your priorities. It's like you take one column and you have to do a mind dump. You have to be serious. You have to get in the right frame of mind. You can't be, this isn't willy-nilly. This is life and death. So you need to mind dump everything that you value, every freaking thing, your personal, your career, your recreational, your whatever, everything. You need to go through everything that's in your life and write down your values, your health values and all that. Write everything down. And it shouldn't be 10 things. It should be 20 something things. And if you don't, look on the internet, find something, ask Chat GTP something, do something.
Yeah.
But get your values out, figure out what they are. And then what you do is you take that and you take the second column. There's 3 columns. The second column is you take your top 10 items from that first column and put them in that second column. It's really easy. The hardest part is getting all your values. And then you look through them and you just start scratching them out until you have 10 left. Just scratch them out, say that's not priority, that's not. And then you're going to have 10 items. Now, all you have to do is take and number them 1 to 10 on importance. That's it. And that's going to take a moment. And then when you move only 3 over, well, guess what? You have your top 3 values and they are prioritized. Just by going through that one thing, you've now prioritized your values. Now, when you make a decision, that is that what you have right there. Will it make the boat go faster? That's your will you make the boat go faster. And then from that, you determine your goal, not your goals, your goal. Because your number one and your goal, all have to line up. That's where you're deliberate about it. That's where you evolve. That's where, okay, I'm here. I have to evolve into my goal. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be painful. It's going to suck. But there's so much in that when you like, because that's where your peace is. That's where your fulfillment is. That's where your purpose is, and it may be in your same job and you just may need to move to a different department, or it may be in your same thing. And now you can super focus, because if you take that same exercise and you do it with your team at work, or if you're a CEO and you do it with your corporation, you do that simple thing. It's like, here's my company values. And you sit down with everybody and you get it. And you distill it. You distill it until you get that one thing for that company, for that team, that person, that family. Will it make the boat go faster?
Right. Yeah. You do that with your spouse too, or your significant other, you're going to have a whole different relationship and family.
And that's the problem, is we don't communicate. And to do this, you have to communicate. You have to communicate with yourself if you're going to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You have to have you have to change your relationship so you can actually be tough and call yourself out. Because that's what we don't do. We don't put ourselves on the line. We don't, we don't, like, that's what we have to do. Is you have to be vicious with yourself in your relationship before you can do anything, or you can heal, or you can do anything. You have to be upfront. You got to rip the Band-Aid off and say, you know what? Or like what Goggins says, he's like, like, oh man, oh, you don't want to run, you tired, oh, get pizza. He's like, no, man, put your shoes on, we're going. It's that whole, and that's what you do with yourself. And if you do that with yourself now, life is going to be better. If you don't do that now, life is going to be harder. Yep. So
I love this quote. I forget, it's just some famous bodybuilder, I forget his name at the moment, but hard choices, easy life, hard choices. Hard choices, easy life, easy choices, hard life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple.
Jim Rohn was saying in the 70s,
Yeah.
You can have an easy life now and your life will be hard. Les Brown said the same thing.
Yeah.
If you have a hard life, if you do the hard things now, your life will be easy. If you do the easy things now, your life will be hard. And it is so true. I mean, we have to be deliberate. We have to be vicious with our development, with our evolution. And until we are, we're going to be mediocre. And if we're mediocre, everyone around us is going to be mediocre. If my kids see me as the reluctant hero, as their hero, what are they going to do? What are they going to be capable of? Because they're going to go, wow, look what Dad did. My wife's going to, people around her is like, look what Dan did. And it's like, what if that whole Goggins thing, what if I became better? What if I stopped processed foods? What if my diet was 50% better? What if I just, got up and walked? I can't walk very far. Well, walk as far as you can and walk back. If you have to, sit down, have someone get you, but walk. You have to, if you're depressed, do something.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and wallow in your misery. You know, and I understand being depressed. I understand that helplessness, but it is a learned helplessness. It's not, there's, like I said, there's very few people that are clinically, actually chemically in their brains depressed. Most of us just have misunderstandings. It's like, go get some sunlight, get some vitamin D, you know, start taking fish oil, start eating protein, my God. Stop eating your carbs. You know, if you just did a few things, don't eat anything fried. Okay. Or make it less, do half of what you used to do. You know,
have one less soda a day. I mean,
one less soda. Because if you go like batshit crazy all at once, you're going to fail 100%. But if you start, like you said, one less soda. If you smoke 2 packs of cigarette, let's work down to 1 pack, maybe in a month or so. And then let's work a little further down.
Right.
And then you're going to notice your life. Like, you know, get outside, get some sunlight, stop working after hours, stop answering emails after hours, stop answering your boss or anybody, stop texting people, you know, put up boundaries. Say this, you can't call me at home anymore. I'm not going to work at home anymore. And if they don't like it, tough shit.
I literally turn my phone off.
Because if you can start doing that with everything around you, and you have to do it with yourself. I mean, that's where discipline comes from. Everybody's like, you know, you got Jocko and it's like discipline, but you got to find, you have to have that value. You figure out your value and your priorities, and then your discipline is going to come easy.
Right.
Because once you figure that out, you automatically start figuring your goal out. And it's like, what if I could do this, I got to start here. It starts with the donut, baby.
I got Jocko's thing on my fridge. As soon as you open the thing, it says, this is whatever the donut one he has. I got that magnet on my fridge.
Get some.
Every time I open it, it's right there. It's high level. No excuses. And that's the thing too. You become a person that says, I can and can't do these things, to the type of person that says, I do these things and I don't do these things. I exercise. I don't eat that way. I do these things. And it's simple. And then you're not relying on willpower and stuff. You have habits, you have discipline. I don't do these things. I do these things. And that's different. Such a different person, such a different mentality between, I can and I can't do these things. Such a different thing. It becomes a negotiation when it's I can and I can't versus I do and I don't.
Well, yeah. And I also talk about, being vicious with yourself, but you also have to give yourself grace. It's like a problem. Like you're on that diet, you go like for 2 months and you lost, 10 pounds and you're going and then you have that one donut and then you eat the whole freaking box. And then now you're like, oh, well, screw it. The whole week's gone. Right. So they eat another box and then, and then you're like self-loathing. And then, you go back into your coping and your stress and it's like, okay, you had the donut, you screwed up. Don't do it twice. Just don't do it 2 days in a row.
Don't miss twice.
Don't miss twice. Yeah. I mean, it's like, if we're compassionate over ourselves, but we have to be stern. You can be compassionate, but you can be, it's like, will this get me what I want? Will this get me to my North Star? Will this get me my goal? Will this make the boat faster? I just love that quote. And anybody can do it. It's like, will this make me more money? Will this hold my family together? Will this keep me from divorce? I mean, if you're cheating on your wife and all that, it's like, okay. And if you want to stay with them, you got to figure out, it's like, what's going to make my marriage better? And it's like, you have to sit there and decide, will this make it better? Will going to the bar tonight make it better, or will it make it worse? Well, you know your answer. Right. We're going home early with flowers or whatever. I mean, I'm speaking in my case, but I mean, not that I'm not a cheater. I'm just using that as a thing. It's like, because it has to do with every aspect of people's life. It's every aspect. It's your diet, it's your relationships, it's your career. It's like, I can't get to the next level. It's like, okay, what will get me to the next level? Will going home and watching football on Sunday, or will doing that one project I need to do? Or is it working on my public speaking skills? Is it working on my Excel skills? Because that helped my corporation, but it's going to make me into a person that's more valuable. And when you're more valuable, you can command more money. And you can move to that next. I always say it's like when you're a cook and you want to move up to be a sous chef, guess what? You do your cook job and then you also start doing sous chef stuff. When you become that sous chef, you're that sous chef, you got to do your job, but you start doing executive stuff. You do stuff for free that you're not qualified and you're not doing yet. Because if you do what you're not being paid for, one day you'll be paid for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a never, because they're going to see it. It's like, because people don't step up in this world.
Yeah.
People don't have that gumption. They don't have that self-leadership where they can stop and say, I got to do this.
Yeah.
If I don't, in 10 years, I'm going to be right here with this shitty mortgage, barely paying the bills, maybe divorced, or in 10 years, I could be 2 or 3 steps level, or it could be my own business, or I could triple, quadruple my income. It's like, but you got to be deliberate. Got to do it. Got to evolve.
Yeah. It reminds me of a story recently. I got an ice bath at the house now. I've been going to a place for a few years now. I've been doing that on my own. I go to the house, and so I've been trying to get my son into it. And this place doesn't allow children, so I never was able to bring him there. But I got one at the house now, and the first time we jumped, and I was trying to teach him, I was like, if you, he kind of was hemming and hawing about, he wants to get in, he wants to do it, especially that I'm doing it. Like we talked about earlier, right? They're going to emulate what I'm doing. He knows I've done it, and I do it. I was talking, and he kind of go in, he hesitate. I was like, you got to make a decision. You got to go. So if not, you're training yourself. You're training your brain that I don't have to listen to myself. I don't have to do the hard things. And you're just training yourself that giving up, and you're going to get better and better at giving up. And,
right.
and I think it really set home for him, especially that lesson. He wound up getting in there, and he wound up knocking out 2 minutes, and he was just like so impressed with himself. And he's like, I get, got what I was trying to get after. And he's like, I don't want to fail. It's like, I understand, he likes some of the Jordan Peterson stuff. I have some posters and stuff up. And he's like, I know, he's like, I know I got to compare myself to who I was yesterday, not to somebody else. And he's like, I want to not fail, but I know, that's part of it and all that. And I think it was just such a great lesson, just a simple ice bath. There's just so many lessons in there, but that's just it. I mean, we just got to do these hard things, and we got to make sure we're not training ourselves to fail, and failure is okay. In the sense of giving up, not failure's great. That's how we learn. That's how we invent things. All inventions and all the great things came out of failing, but training yourself to give up more is probably what I should be saying.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's you got to step into the pain. You got to step into discomfort. If you want to improve, it's just like building a muscle, like weightlifting. You got to destroy the muscles so that you can build the muscle.
Right.
And there's no other way about it. If you want to build your character, you've got to destroy the old man, become the new man. You can't be both of them at the same time. That doesn't work.
Right.
And people don't understand that. It's like, you can't do what you've always done and expect to have something different. It doesn't work that way. Do something you haven't done, and you'll have something later that you never had. Right. So it's, there's so many, it's so many parts of your life. And if you just start with one, with yourself, that's going to emulate, because people will start seeing you at work, and they're going to notice the difference with your confidence, with your abilities, your communication, your resilience, your stress management. They're going to notice these things, because they're going to go, something's different about them. I don't know. And it's like, before it was like, oh, she dyed her hair. It's like, no, it's an air about you now. It's a confidence. It's people can feel your aura when you start. I mean, it's like esoteric and all this, and meditation. No, I like meditation. And it's the esoteric part is real. All of it's real, and people discount it because they're afraid of it, because they're afraid what they may find out about themselves.
Right. Yes.
And
most people are scared to be alone with themselves.
You gotta be able to sit alone with yourself in silence and either fight your demons, or your demons are going to fight you. That whole shadow thing. It's like, you gotta harness the devil in you, because once you harness that stallion, that wild Mustang, it's a beast of burden at that point. It's going to help you. It's going to pull you along. You've gotta tame yourself and your mind. It's like I always say, if you can change your perception, you change your life.
Mm-hmm.
You change your habits, you change your life. You change your decisions, you change your life. It's like, and it's only 6 inches between your ears. That's where it's at.
Yep. I want to, since we're talking about your checklist, I went in I got on it, I downloaded it. I'll link to that for you guys if you guys want to check it out. It's got some great things in here. I think these are some great things to journal about. Each of these questions, I think there's 10 questions here. I wanted to go over a couple that I really liked. Just, however long you want to talk about, quick or not, doesn't matter. Good. First one here. Am I willing to let go of my old habits and beliefs that no longer serve me? Boy, is that a powerful question.
Are you ready for change? That's the whole concept. It's like, because who you were has gotten you where you are. And I don't care who you are. Where you are right now is not what is possible. It's not your potential. And you will never be fulfilled with the status quo. You never will. And if you've never felt fulfillment, you that's that graveyard. That's that expensive real estate.
Yeah.
Because it's really, at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about everybody that's watching you.
And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. A lot of these, like this saying, old habits and beliefs. A lot of these things we got from our parents. And who knows where they got them from? Probably their parents or whoever, or their life experiences. And nobody ever stops to think, why do I do this? Why do I put my left shoe on first? Why do I do these things? I have a friend that we talked about this one time. He's like, he's doing something. I forget what he was doing, but I was like, what are you doing? He's like, well, that's what my grandpa did. I was like, yeah, but that was in 1940. This is like whatever, 2015. That's not how we do it anymore. But that's how he was taught, and he thought that's the only way to do it. Just to stop to examine, your old habits and beliefs and wonder where you got them from. Man, I think that'll really change a lot of things, because we don't realize how many things we do habitually. Most things we do is habitual anyway. Right. So stop and evaluate those and make a change, especially if they're not serving you anymore. Oh man, that's a powerful one. And then the next one I kind of want to chat about here is, am I committed to putting in the time and effort required to make lasting changes? And a lot of people, they will not commit to that time.
It's hard to make the time for yourself, because you're busy, especially in this world. We're so distracted. It's like, I don't have time to go to the gym. The gym isn't the hardest thing to do. It's showing up at the gym. Yeah. Like they always say, the heaviest weight at the gym is the front door. Right. The hardest part of running is putting your shoes on. And I go back to Goggins, because he cracks me up, and I listen to him. He's like, man, I don't want to do this again. He's like, I sit there, y'all don't know it, but I sit for 30 minutes looking at those damn shoes. I don't want to put them on. But I said, this is what we do. Yeah. We do the hard stuff, because the hard stuff is going to make it so that when something happens, I don't fall apart. When and the way I look at it is like, if you do the hard stuff, when you have to make the decision, are you going to take that job? How are you going to respond to that person? How are you going to react when things are falling around you? It's like, if you're not prepared and you haven't prepared yourself, you're going to fall apart. You're going to make a crappy decision. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your spouse. You're going to lose your life. And it's all goes down to, you weren't prepared. You weren't prepared for life. You showed up for life and you weren't prepared. I'm giving you the opportunity to get prepared. Right now is the time to get prepared. Yeah, I say, if you got 10 hours to watch a Netflix movie, you got time to sit down and maybe you can even just sit down on the floor and stretch as you're doing that, or just get on the floor and do some things, or maybe get a 30-minute workout in or whatever first. It blows my mind. People brag about they watch a 10-hour Netflix movie, binging a whole season in a weekend, but they don't have time for nothing else. It really blows my mind. If you guys, this is a great list. If you guys want to get this list, get into the link in the show notes and get all these questions. But the last one I wanted to touch on in this list, am I ready to accept responsibility
for my actions and the results they produce. That's a big one to me, because that's one thing I think, especially here in America, I think people don't take responsibility for their actions and their choices, and it's everybody else's fault, and nothing to do with me, and it can't possibly be me. That's a really powerful one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole point. It's like when you make everything your fault, it's my fault that I got in an accident.
Right.
It's my fault that my wife hates me. It's not that she's a bitch. It's that I made her into that. I created the problems at work. It's not that my boss hates me. It's I didn't, when it's your boss's fault, you have no control over it. When it's your wife's fault, when it's the guy in the car next to you, it's their fault. You have no control over it. When you take control over it and you take responsibility and you make it your fault, then it's like, okay, I need to drive more defensively. I need to be more aware. I'd be less distracted when I'm driving, because if I would have been less distracted, I would have saw that.
Right.
I have to be more deliberate about how I talk to my boss, how I show up at work. Am I a grumble butt? Is the first 30 minutes like nobody wants to talk to you? Is it, is it when you come home, do you just like go straight to your office? Don't you talk to your wife, or you don't even come home until late, or you pass out, or whatever? If you take responsibility, it's like she's always doing this, or she's always doing that, or he's doing this. If it's like they're doing it because I'm not being interesting enough, or I'm not showing enough attention to them, that they're willing to show me the attention. Because the world is a mirror. If you give out shit, they're going to give you shit right back. If you say you're going to have a crappy day, you're going to have a crappy day. If you say you're going to have an awesome day, if you take ownership and responsibility, you are going to have an awesome day. It could be raining brimstone and fire. You're going to have an awesome day, man, because you told yourself that. You told yourself, when I go to work, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be helpful. I'm going to, I'm going to have boundaries, but I'm going to be productive. I'm going to come home. I'm going to do this. I'm going to surprise my wife with a date or husband or whatever. And it's like, you show them attention. That's a lot of divorce happens, or a lot of people get fired because they didn't show attention to the other person that's involved. Because it's that whole, if you want a great relationship, you have to evolve with that person in that relationship. If you want a great career, you have to evolve into the person that can do that job and that can get along with everyone. It's like when you go in there and you're negative Nelly, or you're this and that, dude, people don't want you around. They're going to get rid of you, or they're going to leave you. So
and like you're saying, you set up expectations for people and how you want them to treat you. If you're going to be that person, that's how they're going to be treated. And then eventually nobody's going to probably want to hang out with you, and they don't want you around, or whatever it is. Yeah. That's.
I mean, you know who said it? Extreme ownership.
Oh, Jocko, he's the man.
Extreme ownership. I own everything around me.
100%.
It's all my fault. Because if it's my fault, then I can do something. Because you know what? If that person's a problem and all that, and it's my fault, then I just remove myself from the situation. I don't be around that person. I'm in control. I don't have to sit there and take their shit. I can leave. I don't have to take that from my boss. I can look for another job. Because you're in control. And if you're in control, the stress level is not there. If you're out of control, stress will kill you. You burn out. You're going to depression, alcohol. That's where it all comes from, is you don't feel in control. Because, I mean, that's at the end of the day, what is that? Fear is basically, or stress is actually a feeling of loss of control. I'm going to lose my job. I got to stress. I'm going to lose my wife. I'm going to lose my car. I'm going to lose my house. My kids are going to get killed in the car because they're driving now. It's like you feel a loss that hasn't occurred. You're paying a price that hasn't even been asked for yet before, and you're just stressing about something that's probably not going to happen. And you're going to like beat yourself up. You're going to burn out. And then everybody around you is going to, man, he's a curmudgeon. He's a pain in the ass. He's hurt. He's unsure of himself. he's loathing himself. It's like, if you just take control of it, man, like deliberately, like, this is mine.
Yeah. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier. When you're in control, you can have a response. When you're out of control, you're just reacting. When you react, that's when we have problems.
Right. Perfect. And you get what's left. I mean, that, yeah. When you respond, you take control. When you react, you just get what's left, or whatever happens. It's just shit out of luck. Right.
Well, I like to do a weekly challenge on a show every episode we do. So usually it's something we talked about, maybe not, or just some type of idea or concept or challenge, like I said, from the episode, or maybe not. But I would like you to issue this week's challenge to the listeners and viewers.
Oh, me? Oh,
yeah. What do you want to challenge people with? What is something that you just want everybody to do for a week, from whenever you listen to this episode? For 1 week, I want the listener or the viewer to do something, to make some type of change. What do you want that to be? What do you think that we should do?
Wow. Let's go to the basics.
Okay.
This is basic foundation. This will literally change your day. And if you change the day, it'll change your life. Is when you get up in the morning, you do your affirmation. You do your gratitude. Thank whoever you appease or look up to or whatever. Thank that are alive, and positively say, today is going to be a good day. I don't care what happens. Today is going to be a good day. And if they just start with that and just practice that self-affirmation, that self-fulfilling prophecy, man, I think a lot of people would be surprised how they feel at the end of the week, because it's like, no matter what happens, you get cut off and it's a positive day. It's like, wow, I just missed that. Instead of, or if it starts to rain, you're just like, God, I love the way it smells, if it's, whatever it is, if the food's not that great, it's like, wow, I am so lucky that I get to eat. I mean, let's be, that thankful, that affirmation, that positive. It's like, like I always say, if you get a shit sandwich, just, start at the beginning and just get it done. Eat the toad first. And I really think, because there's so many people that they wake up pissed off, or they wake up and all of a sudden they stub their toe and it's the worst day ever. They say, this day's going to suck. Guess what? This day's going to suck. So if you string 7 of those together, 7 positive wins throughout the day, wow.
You're ahead of probably 90% of the world.
You'll own yourself. And if you own yourself, you can own the world.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. Unfortunately, nowadays the bar is very low. But the good thing about that is it's not that hard for you to get over that and be excellent and be the best at whatever it is you want to do. That was amazing. I love talking with you. This was so much fun. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on you want to touch on before we close out?
No, I got my book, doing this, writing it, and that's, the hardest thing about writing a book is sitting down.
Yeah.
So it's going to come out this summer. I'm starting to do masterminds, and you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram, but the Instagram's my dogs and personal stuff. And you'll see LinkedIn, and I've got my schnauzers on there, my little schnauzers. And, it's, my favorite thing to do now is to help people find their values, find their priorities, and to change their life to find their potential. That's what I'm going to do. I don't, everybody says, what are you going to do when you retire? Who says I got to retire? Why can't I help people? So, yeah.
And we'll link to all that. And that's a noble cause. And I think you're on a great path, and I love it. But we'll link to all the stuff. We'll link to your book, and everybody can go ahead and get that pre-ordered. If you're listening to this before the summer release, if not, go down there and get that ordered. I'll link to your LinkedIn and everything for everybody in the show notes.
Yeah, and also at www.dancapello.com, you go on there. There's places where you can click, and I'll get your information. You can get on my list, and whoever's on my list, I'm going to start information out. I'm going to start sending, because I would just put all this stuff together. Thoughts of the day. It's going to come down to all that. All that's in the works. It's just so much to get it all together. I'm getting the infrastructure in now, but if I can get your email from when they get the deliberate list. Put your email in. We'll be in contact, and I'll keep you up to date. And you can always ask me questions because I'm just Dan at dancapello.com.
Perfect. And I'll link that for everybody in there. Don't rush if you're driving. Don't worry about writing that down.
Yeah,
it'll be in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much, Dan. It's been a great conversation. Like I said, you're on a noble mission. I love it. Keep it going. You know the journey. You know what's going to have to happen. Don't let nobody slow you down.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed the episode. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end here. If you got any value from this episode, I would love it if you guys shared it with at least 2 other people. You guys can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Don't forget about us in your favorite podcast app if you like that. For past episodes and links to everything we talk about here today, you can head over to socialcommunion.show. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and transforming to the person you want to become.